but I'm not shameless in taking every opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Tony Rivera, and I'm currently the second in command of 31 Division. You know where 31 Division is. I'm an inspector. And when I got the invitation to come here, I certainly wanted to make myself. I'll take every opportunity to present myself and to try and respond to questions as it relates to police officers. I want to assure you that when I take this uniform off, I'm as black as anybody else in here. And so I have been the victim of a number of things. First of all, let me congratulate you on your well-done documentary. It was absolutely well done. And to answer your question, because that's the reason I came down, it was absolutely, we don't have any rights. Police officers don't have any right to take your phone away or to stop you from recording. When it comes to using that as evidence in the court, then you have to have consensual agreement. So a police officer has to be made aware that you were taping in order to use it as evidence. But that doesn't mean that he can stop you from taping. So that was wrong. To answer your question, it's absolutely wrong. But so that's the response to this. And as far as what I saw in the documentary, it's quite, your rights is something that's protected by the Constitution, and it's something that every one of us should know. Like, the only difference between you and I is that I get paid for doing something that is everybody's collective responsibility to do. Security and safety of our communities is everybody's responsibility. I just get paid to do it, right? Okay, that's my first question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
I think you have a question? Yeah. Anyone else?
Do I really have to walk to the mic?
Well, that's what somebody told me.
Do you decided the mic already?
That's what they told me.
How did you guys find the balance? In the sense that, I mean, you're talking about something very serious. At the same time, it was funny. But like you were also reviewing the death of two people. But there was a comic spin to it. So like, how did you, or was that a concern when you're thinking about creating the film?
Okay, I'll take that question because I wrote the script. One of the biggest challenges in the beginning was trying to deal with some really, really heavy issues in a really light way. And the traditional way to do that in film is usually mockumentary, right? Because mockumentary allows you to view, like, take the perspectives of many different people and to look at those perspectives really honestly and still, you know, be able to do it fairly, right? And I felt that if we didn't look at perspectives really fairly, like, you know, from the police, from like an ordinary Jane French resident to youth, then it wouldn't be real to the experience, which is really what we wanted, right? So, but it was definitely a challenge for me and Mike, because we edited, like, you know, together the big process, and Mike kind of kept it, you know, to the ordinary person, and I tried to refrain from being too legal on it.
Legalese was like Chinese to me, so I tried to actually compensate by, I guess, trying to keep it entertaining and not to the classroom, which is definitely sort of how it started off. So.
And I think that the two lawyers also struck that balance really well, because Suzanne has a lot of really great practical experience working with people from the area, and Professor Alan Young offers a really theoretical perspective, so I think that also helps strike the balance.
We answered the question then.
I got a question now, is it okay? Okay, now that I've gotten my head together, I just wanted to reflect on a couple things. I'm a student at York University, and I think that one thing I was thinking, I wanted to see what you guys thought about the idea that it's really power relations that we're dealing with more than anything else. Like, you can't simplify it into binaries of good cops and bad cops, you know, bad apples, whereas the real deal is power relations. A few years back, I think it was about 2004, I think, there was a protest at York University, and the police were called on because, God forbid, students should demonstrate and you know, express themselves politically. And there's footage on YouTube. You can look it up, cops in York on YouTube, and you can audibly see them, like, you know, grabbing students to the ground. And it's alleged that the York administration gave them access, the cops access to a room, where it's alleged that they beat these students. Now, I don't know the full, okay, I don't know how it turned out in the end with this situation, but I know that legal action was taken, and it was a big embarrassment for the 31 Division. And of course, they didn't anticipate, they might be used to doing that in Jane Finch, but they did it to, you know, some students whose parents are lawyers, and it totally, you know, went a different way. So it's really power relations when you do that to someone who has, you know, a lot of power backing them up because they, you know, they're from a privileged background, they got connections easily, you know, the media listens to them more, whereas when you take, you know, kids at Jane Finch, you know, who don't often know their rights, don't have, you know, a lot of economic background and privilege to back them up. And so many police might think that they can pretty much get away with this. I just wanted to ask what you guys think of the power relations element.
Just make a comment. Okay, that was. Okay, I'm not going to comment on the York thing because I don't know what happened there, and I don't think it's not really relevant here. But with the power relations, I mean that's what, you know, how I used cyberspace to empower, you know, residents of Jane Finch, especially the youth. And all the kids are on, you know, their little iPods and they're on YouTube. So I figured, you know, having a film of this nature online, available for free, easy to download, easy to access, is what can help, you know, raise awareness and, you know, address these issues and, you know, to have this kind of information flow out, and especially to the youth in Jane Finch because it's really difficult to reach them. So, you know, that's why I use the website and this kind of film, and hopefully when we get it on there, the entire film, and then people can just watch it and download it all day and have these kind of discussions and debates, and hopefully we did something better.
Yeah, to touch on what he said, like the guy said on the film, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So in regards to dealing with police, like she said, be polite and all these different mannerisms, it plays a very important effect on the situation that will happen when you're interacting with them, and even positions of people with positions of authority. So there's gonna always be issues of people abusing their power, and you being the person that's the effect of that abuse should just basically guide the momentum of their aggression, because obviously they're doing it because probably they had a bad day or they just don't like you for what you're wearing. Whatever the reason is, you just gotta just balance it out. So if they're coming with like fire, you move like water. So you just gotta learn from the interaction with people with authority, teachers, police, anybody.
Okay, you up there in the at the top.
Just one more comment. I think just to chalk it up as well, just to a power imbalance, makes you forget what the law is about. I grew up in areas similar to Jane Finch, and that's why I went to law school. I felt really powerless dealing with the police. And I see in the Jane Finch area, a lot of youth, they kind of just throw their hands up that the police are gonna stop me, there's nothing I can do about it. And if youth are thinking that at 15 years old, what is your hope for the future? So you have to realize that the law, when you're in a courtroom, you're all the same, right? So that is the law. I like to say the law is an equalizer. So yeah, as I'm not sure what his name was, but what he talked about, I can't speak to that because I wasn't there. I'm hoping it had more to do with the fact that there were university students that whatever happened, but the law is there for people. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. The thing is, I think, especially in areas that are over-policed, and I do think Jane Finch is over-policed, but in areas that are over-policed, people have a tendency to just give up. What's the point, right? So I talk about police complaints. Perfect example, people say, what's the point of doing that? It's not gonna go anywhere. But if everyone says that, nothing ever gets done. So the status quo stays the same. So it's more than just a power imbalance. You have to exercise your rights. And we're hoping that this movie will be used as a tool, especially for youth, and not to feel powerless.
Okay.
This question's for the ladies. No?
Somebody else? Okay, yeah.
I got a question for the officer. I'm not trying to move him or anything, but I just wanted to ask him, like, the situations where your fellow officers acting like adjusters, like, You know what I mean? Like you notice him being more aggressive towards the detainee, and you see him using his power. As a black officer, you know what I'm saying? Happens to a lot of black youths be on notice. I want to ask you, like, would you step forward and stop him, or would you let him continue to do that?
I'm able to answer.
Go ahead.
Susan, is your name? Yeah.
Yes.
Like Susan, I joined this organization for a specific reason. I joined this organization, I left Ontario Hydro to join this organization because I wanted to make a difference. At the time when I joined, I felt that I was a victim of the poor decision making of police officers. And I can assure you, I would now not sell out the initial reason for joining this organization. And so if I was to see police abuse in my presence, first of all, to make effective change, you have to be in a position. You truly have to be in a position. And I worked hard and diligently to get to the point where I'm second in command of 31 Division. And so I am now responsible for the entire 31 Division. And so I can assure you that in my presence, or to my knowledge, if anything like that was to come to my knowledge, there will be effective actions. I would absolutely not.
See, I can understand that though, right? But there's